Thank you for coming and joining us tonight. If you're joining us from social media and you're jumping in to check out our Inner Circle live calls, we're super excited to have you here with us. We have a wonderful, amazing call tonight that you're going to absolutely love. It's going to inspire the heck out of you. And you're probably going to come off the call just feeling, very, very excited that there are answers and solutions for a lot of different symptoms and conditions that in the Western traditional medical model, they just don't have answers and solutions for. So welcome anyone who's coming in from social media around the world. We're super excited to have you here with us.
Dr. V, I'm going to interrupt you real quick.
Yep.
It's saying we're in practice session up at the top.
Yeah, I'm getting ready to go in, but we are live on social.
Got it. All right. I want to make sure we're good and connected.
Yeah. And yes, thank you so much. And so thank you for joining us. And we are getting ready to go live with our Zoom call. Let me go right here. Thank you so much. And hi, everybody, and welcome to our Inner Circle call, our live little show that we have going on. Thank you so much for joining. Let me open up the chat for everyone. Give me just 1 second to get the chat open. For those of you who are joining us from Zoom, we love for you to come in. Oh, look, it automatically set to everyone. I think everybody should be able to jump in. So go and click on the icon at the bottom of the Zoom screen. Jump in and say hello. Let us know that you're here because we are super excited. We've got some amazing stuff for you here at our Inner Circle little podcast show tonight. And we're always super excited to have you joining us live. As you can see, we've got some faces on here that we don't normally see. And hi, Doreen, Libby, Jana, Patricia, Caroline, Helen. It's so good to see all of you. We've got some new faces. So Anne is joining us tonight. Now, Anne has been a co-host with me on our Tribe Talk podcast for many years. And she definitely wanted to jump in with us tonight for this live Inner Circle call, because we are going to have a candid, intimate discussion with someone who we just love so dearly, someone who we are so proud of. And her name is Laurie. And Laurie has been working with us and for a short amount of time as well. I mean, it's been really amazing, Laurie, the progress and the just the amazing progress that you've made in your healing and how much dedication that you have put into taking care of you. And I just want to thank you for coming, and I want to welcome you for being here with us tonight.
Thank you, Dr. V.
So, and then we also have another face that you may or may not be familiar with, and that's Rosita. Rosita, if you want to wave. So those of you who are working with us, put a 1 in the chat box if you already know Rosita and how magical and amazing that this beautiful woman, that this beautiful light being is. Yes, and the ones go crazy. So many of us know Rosita. If you're new and you're just joining us for the first time, or you've only joined us a couple of times, let me tell you a little bit about Rosita and introduce her. Rosita is she works with our trauma release, emotional release, personal development. And she uses many different modalities, including resonance repatterning, light, color, and sound therapy, somatic therapy, tapping, all different kinds of tools and modalities to help address causes of symptoms, conditions, and diseases that are rooted in unresolved trauma, unprocessed emotions, belief systems that are no longer serving you. All of these different types of things that can also affect our physiology, our physical being. Rosita is one of our team of practitioners who does this amazing, amazing work. And many of you know her. And the reason why we're all on tonight is because one of the very unique things that we do, that I can say, I think we're probably the only ones who are doing this, is we have the opportunity for our clients to assemble through us here at Modern Holistic Health, a life team of practitioners to address all facets of their human condition, mind, body, spirit. Because we have many facets to us. And we have found that if we miss one of those, that the individual, they will make progress, but they're not going to make it all the way to the finish line, right? Or it's just not going to be as sustainable. And so with Laurie, she has a life team here with us at Modern Holistic Health to, think of us like a team of precision surgeons working on all the different parts, only we're not cutting and doing surgery, right? We're addressing it from a very holistic and very, what I would call the future of medicine perspectives, with the newest technology combined with ancient wisdom. And so with that, let's go ahead and let's get started, because we've got some really beautiful discussions that we want to discuss with Laurie, and Laurie has so much to share with us tonight. So this is what I did. Before we got on the call, I pulled up a few slides, created a few slides showing some of Laurie's data points, because as you know, we're very evidence-based, which means that we're data-driven, and anything that we can collect data on, we want to do that, because the data typically doesn't lie, right? The data doesn't lie. And so we want to be able to take a look and see the physiological parts, that, any causes that are rooted in the physical body. So like toxic mold, chemical toxins, heavy metals, different sensitivities to different foods, leaky gut, things that we can actually see. So let me show you. I'm just going to go ahead and share the screen, and team, if you can just let me know if I'm sharing the correct one, that would be wonderful. Yep, that looks good. Okay, perfect. Thank you. So let's take a look at some of Laurie's data. So Laurie is comes from a medical background, as, correct me, let me know if this is correct, a certified nurse's assistant.
Yeah, that was the last job I had. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And so she's been in the medical field. We have many people, by the way, coming to us from the medical field: physicians, psychiatrists, psychologists, psychotherapists, nurses. We have a lot of people who we are helping right now. And so when Laurie came to us, she had a host of symptoms. In fact, her symptom sheet was twice this long. So what I did was I just grabbed some of the top ones that she had in terms of severity. And as you can see here, she was really struggling with a lot of GI related issues. She was struggling with a lot of asthma and breathing, like chemical sensitivities, just a lot of breathing issues. In fact, Laurie, haven't you for a while not only been seeing a pulmonologist for assistance with your breathing, but you have been carrying like a pulse oximeter or some sort of type of device to help measure your oxygen saturation levels because they were getting dangerously low?
Yeah. I even have one for like when they do the overnight sleep test that I can wear myself at night that will measure my oxygen levels at night. It's the soft one that I can wear overnight, and it has an alarm that will go off. And just recently, when it was going off below 90 so much that I reset the alarm not to go off until it went below 88, because it was waking me up so much.
Right. And so just for those of you who are joining us tonight, who are listening to this, if someone gets prescribed a device to measure their oxygen levels, it's a serious issue. And we're going to talk about some of the progress, some of the amazing progress that we've had. But hold on, because we're not ready for Laurie to share that yet. But in addition to the gut issues, and the breathing issues, the lung issues. She also has had a history of really significant anxiety, significant depression, panic attacks, mind racing, and she had significant, really, really, really bad fatigue. And so, Laurie, you had a lot of stuff going on. And when you came to see us, we recommended some labs for you, correct? And
Yes.
so what I did was, Laurie, I pulled just a few of the things, right? So that we can kind of stay high level and not go deep into the details, because we could go an hour just looking at labs. But what I did was I just pulled a few of the details. And for everyone watching, this slide right here, this is one little piece of information, of data that I took from her results from her organic acids test. The organic acids test gives us a really high level view and shows us which systemic engines in the body may not be functioning normally. Now, it's not going to necessarily tell us what's causing it, but it's going to give us some insights into the body's systemic engines that traditional Western labs don't look at. So in this particular section of her organic acids test, we're going to look at the one at the bottom that's in red. And this one here, the HVA DOPAC ratio. When we see it high like that, this is indicative of a pattern of decreased dopamine conversion. So what happens when your body is not converting dopamine? Typically, your body will convert dopamine into epinephrine and norepinephrine. The body is super efficient. It will create a chemical that the body needs. It'll use what it needs and then convert the rest into the next thing. And then oftentimes these chemicals can even be recycled into the body and used again. The body is super efficient like that. When it comes to dopamine and dopamine conversion, what we have found throughout the years and what research has shown as well, excuse me, is that an individual can have mental health or brain-related symptoms, both when their brain chemistry is too low and when it's too high. Now, most of us have been taught that if there's a brain, like if there's a like a mental health struggle going on or a condition, it's always serotonin. Most of us are led to believe that, and that it's low, but that's actually not true. And what we've found over the years is that dopamine plays a huge role in our mood, our ability to sleep, right? So our wake sleep cycles, our mood, our memory, our ability to think logically, our ability to think creatively. Dopamine has a lot to do with that, right? And so if it's too low, yeah, it can cause some of those symptoms. But did you know that it can also cause those symptoms when it gets too high? And so this pattern that we're seeing here with the HVA DOPAC ratio is giving us a clue. It's showing us a pattern of decreased dopamine conversion, which is going to lead to what? Higher dopamine levels in the brain. Higher dopamine levels in the brain are directly correlated with a lot of the symptoms that Laurie had when she first came to see us, including trouble falling asleep, a lot of anxiety, panic attacks, and mind racing. Oh, and brain fog, right? And so, and which she has that further down on her symptom sheet. And so the first things that we start thinking of when an individual is having this issue are, what are the top causes of a decreased dopamine conversion? The top couple of ones are toxic mold and various types of bacterial infections like Clostridia. Certain strains of Clostridia can do that, and certain chemicals can do that as well. So can you guess what we did next? We looked at her toxin levels and her mold levels. We also looked for signs of infections. And not only did we find a pattern of a possible bacterial overgrowth on her organic acids test, which is shown right here with the high levels of the 3-indoleucidic acid, hard to say, that is giving us that's showing us a clue that she likely has some bacterial overgrowth. And out of all the different bacteria that it could be, Clostridia could be one of them, right? So we looked at that and went, that's going to be interesting to see what her other labs show, the labs that we look at that are looking at more detail at what pathogens or bacterial overgrowth she might have. And we're going to look at that here in just a minute. When we, excuse me, when we started looking at Laurie's toxin levels, we found extremely high levels of cadmium, thorium, very high levels of tungsten, and a couple of others, including perchlorate. Now, when we're talking about these chemicals, it's really important to know that these chemicals oftentimes affect multiple organ systems in the body, and they almost all affect the central nervous system. That's your brain, right? The second largest organ system that they typically affect is your liver and your GI tract. And so it's just, it's just important to kind of note high level that pretty much all of these chemicals overall, they're all affecting the central nervous system in the brain. So cadmium, we're not going to go into a ton of detail, but it's considered a heavy metal. And so whenever we find high levels in an individual, the first thing that we do is we talk about where are the most common exposures. Now, our water systems are highly contaminated all over the country now. Our municipal water is contaminated, our well water is contaminated. And so we want to start putting on the Sherlock Holmes hat, and we want to have our water tested, starting there, right? And then doing your research to see where are other exposures. And so other exposures can happen from refining of metals. It can happen through smoking. Did you ever smoke?
No.
No. Were you ever exposed to secondhand smoke?
Yes. When I was little, my dad was a 4.5 pack a day smoker.
Yeah. And back in those days, we didn't know any different. So we smoked in the house, right? Not we, but our parents, right? They smoked in the house, didn't open the windows. It was a smoke box in there. And a lot of times our parents did that in the car. And so you grew up with that heavy, heavy exposure to these cigarettes, right? That can be really, really laden with this chemical. And this chemical is directly associated with an increase in lung cancer. It has very disruptive effects on the brain's ability to make new blood vessels. So it creates this issue with angiogenesis, with the development of new blood vessels, in particular in the brain. And it causes adverse effects in the central nervous system related to a wide spectrum of symptoms and neurological disorders like Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, ALS, MS, olfactory dysfunction, peripheral neuropathies, which means nerve pain throughout your body. It can even lead to learning disabilities, mental retardation. It can cause kidney dysfunction and failure. And so it can cause a lot of problems. And, we have a lot of people that will come to us and ask us, hey, do you work with people with MS, for example? Our answer is like, well, yes, but we're not treating MS. We don't treat anything really. We're going to look for the root causes, because how many times are there other exposures or toxins that people have, whether it's Lyme disease or a chemical like this, that are known as the great mimickers of MS or other neurological conditions. And so we come in and we start digging to find out what the root cause is. And, with Laurie, she was really struggling a lot with massive fatigue and a lot of brain related stuff. And you can see here that cadmium causes that. Thorium does a lot of the same type of stuff. And then perchlorate, I just wrote some of this down, not that we're going to go through and read it, but perchlorate, which is found in there's a lot of contaminated groundwater that is contaminated with perchlorate, in particular, California, certain areas of California. And it can really disrupt the thyroid's ability to produce hormones. Now we're getting ready to talk with Laurie in a little bit about her thyroid, because that's another big issue that she was having. And so, it's really important for us to understand that these chemicals, are they related to the symptoms that we have? What you're going to find if you've been struggling and you've been sick, you're going to find chemicals. I guarantee you're going to find chemicals, mold, you're going to find different things in your body that are directly correlated with your symptoms, conditions, and diseases. For the perchlorate, it also causes respiratory tract infection, irritation and coughing, a lot of labored breathing, all of the same things that Laurie was struggling with. And then finally, coming to the end of some of the labs, we also did some testing to see how her neurological system and her body was reacting to wheat or the different components of wheat. And we did some deeper testing to look at her GI tract and these possible infections that could be creating brain chemistry imbalances, fatigue, and a lot of other issues. And sure enough, we found that she was having a very high reactivity. She is having a very high reactivity to wheat and other components of gluten and different components of wheat. And when we looked here, we were able to see markers of leaky gut. And down at the bottom, where it's the anti-LPS antibodies, so her body is producing a reaction that when we see this on the lab, it typically can help also clue us in also to possible infections, possible overgrowth of certain bacteria in her body. Now, again, it's not telling us what kind, but it can clue us into that. And this helps us understand a lot of her gut issues too, why she was having the gut issues that she was having for all these years that nobody could really figure out what it was for her. And then finally, we ended up looking at the gut labs, and there was a lot of information on there, but I extracted just a little bit of it for you to see. We did end up seeing that she did have bacterial overgrowth. And while it wasn't Clostridia like we thought that it would be, it turned out to be high levels of she has E. coli, she's got Candida. And so, these can also cause brain chemistry imbalances as well. And so we ended up finding some really interesting information. Right, Laurie? And in addition, Laurie also had a history of having some thyroid issues. And your doctor, diagnosed you with hypothyroid secondary to thyroid atrophy.
Right.
But what was causing the thyroid atrophy? So this is the thing. When it comes to thyroid, most doctors are not doing full thyroid panels. Don't get mad at your doctor. They're either not trained to look at a full thyroid panel or the insurance company is not allowing them to do it. Our poor doctors have their hands tied behind their backs. They're not allowed to practice in the full capacity that they could because they're not allowed to order additional markers that could very well help us understand the root cause of the problem. And so, from our perspective, it was a misdiagnosis because from when we did our in-depth lab testing with her, we ended up finding a pattern of Hashimoto's, which is an autoimmune, which is considered in the Western model an autoimmune disease where the body attacks the thyroid. Now, the good news is that even in Western medicine, where they say that there's no cure for that, Anne and I know firsthand, both personally and working with hundreds of clients over the years, we know that it's 100% reversible. So despite the things that we're hearing about chronic diseases not being fixable or not being curable, this is why we do the work that we do here at Modern Holistic Health. And this is why we collect the data and show the case studies the way that we do, so that people can have hope and you can see that in more cases than not, 90 to 95% of the time, you can recover no matter what you've got going on. So I would like to jump in and just, kind of dive into some intimate discussion with you, Laurie, on your whole journey. And one of the things I wanted to ask you was, what were some of the deep-seated emotions or turning points in your life and in your health that propelled you to start this transformative journey here with us at Modern Holistic Health?
I was first introduced to the concept of holistic health. I was about 31, and it was a psychiatrist when I was still back in Michigan. And she actually introduced me to somebody for some breathing techniques to help try and calm me. And she says she wasn't too sure about the whole concept, but she felt I really needed some help with some breathing and calming techniques. And within a year of learning about that is when I moved south. My life got really busy, and I moved to Oklahoma City and then Virginia, and life gets busy. But that breathing technique that I learned from him really did help. And then as my parents got older and some issues happened, and then my dad died, and then when my mom developed vascular dementia, I really, really started looking into holistic medicine a lot more deeper then. And that's actually when I came across you. You were on a panel regarding nutrition or something with the brain and health. And because I was anything that I could do to try and help my mom at that point in time. And I got on your mailing list at that point. And my brother and my mom died 7 weeks apart from each other. So my brother was in end-stage renal disease. He died first, and 7 weeks later, my mom died. And then I went through my CNA training officially. I was doing a lot of, that type of work. Before that, I had been working in as an instructor for working with adults with physical and mental disabilities. So I was teaching them. So kind of healthcare, kind of education, somewhat related field. And then I needed a double knee replacement, and I had them both done at once. And one of my knees did not heal right. I was never able to go back to work. And things kind of really went downhill for me at that point. And I was in a lot of pain with the one knee. It was a different type of pain, but I didn't have the mobility in it. And my gut pain was even worse. I was in horrendous financial difficulty. I was, the house, thankfully my mom had set it up right that the house is mine, but I was about to lose it because I couldn't pay the mortgage anymore, but it was mostly paid for. But it was further out, so I was away from my friends, my church, and it's like I knew I needed to make a change. And it took Social Security disability 19 months to approve my disability. Normally, the average is 6 or 7 months. Took them 19. So I was in a whole lot of hurt emotionally, spiritually, financially. Everything was, I was in bad shape all the way around. And one of your master classes came up right at the time when my disability got approved. I managed to get the house sold. So I bought a small place in town, real close to my church, and I paid all cash for it. It's like, I got no mortgage, it was like, now was the time. I needed to make a change, but I still had to ask myself some hard questions. Am I really going to follow through this time? But there was something with you that really resonated with me when I saw you in that conversation regarding the dementia with my mom. And I hung on to that. And even though I was never ready with any of the other things, because too much was going on when mom was still alive, and I was doing home hospice with her and everything else. And if she might have still been on palliative care when I first, was introduced to you. But I kept, I didn't, now I'll get rid of this email because I get tons of email. I just there was something about you that I needed to hang on to those emails. And when I went through your master class, it was like, oh, it's still going to be a struggle financially, especially, with the disability checks. I'm going to be on a limited income. But it was like something about, it's finally my time. I have been a caretaker for everybody else and in so many other jobs. It's like, I'm in my 60s now. Isn't it time for me to finally take care of me? And then I had to ask myself, am I going to stick with it? I mean, I've been in and out of therapy since I was a teenager. Am I going to stick with this time? But it's like, I'm tired of being sick and tired all the time. And I was finally ready to prioritize me. And the team approach that you guys have was something so different than any others, because over the years, I've tried other products to help my gut. Some have worked, some haven't. I do have a great, Western medicine, primary care, and she tends to want to go for natural remedies. When things like when my mom's cholesterol started climbing, no, I don't want to put her on a statin. Let's try, an over-the-counter medicine that naturally tries to lower down. She is one to try and use natural remedies. So I've got somebody that has always leaned that way, or at least once I moved to Arkansas, or found her, So, I've been very grateful for that, and she is trying to wrap her head around everything that, that's doing, because I keep her in the loop on all of this. And, so I am very blessed with that, and she's a Christian also. So that helps me too, that spiritually supports me.
I think, Laurie, that a lot of our clients find themselves in the same place you were, where it's kind of like, I've tried all these other things. I'm kind of at the end of my rope. I need to do something big to make a big difference. And thank you so much for sharing that, because I know that a lot of our listeners are resonating with that, because a lot of our clients find themselves in that same place, needing to do something big and do something different. I'm curious, as you've been on this journey with us, I know it's been four months. In the big picture, that's a relatively short amount of time for you to have seen these massive changes that you've seen so far. I'm curious, do you remember any particular moments where you kind of had this aha, like, oh, this is working, this is rapidly changing, or this feels very different in my body? Do you remember any moments like that over the past few months that you can share?
I think the first one that was really the biggest eye opener for me had to do with my eyes. I woke up one morning and it's like, wait a minute, there's something different here. And I had no floaters in my eyes. I got my first floaters in my eyes when I was 9 years old. And I waited till the next day and it's like, there's still no floaters in my eyes. And I put it in the chat. I didn't even put that down as a symptom or even thinking that was something that could be resolved. I just assumed it was something that would be with me forever. And I had a lot of them. And the first one I got when I was 9 was a big one in my right eye. And it was like, it was so noticeable. And it's like, wait a minute, it's gone. And that was the first really big thing. And the other thing right now is my stomach was always at a 10. The pain in my stomach was at a 10. And in my upper right quadrant, it would even get worse at times. Now my stomach, it aches maybe all of the time, but it's a dull ache. And I have little momentary periods where it's like, oh, okay, it really hurts, but then it backs off. And with a lot of the tools and the stuff that you've taught me, and for most of my body, with the exception of my spine, I've learned how to decrease the pain. That's what's so amazing about your program. The only place I have not learned to decrease my pain is in my spine. And one of my doctors said she wasn't surprised, or the nurse practitioner wasn't surprised, because I'm still obese, I'm having rapid weight loss. And with the rapid weight loss, there are so many changes going on in my spine that it's hard for my spine to adjust to all of that also.
Yeah, some big changes for you. We saw your symptom sheet, and some of that weight loss that you've had in 4 months is really incredible. You talked a little bit about beforehand thinking, would I be able to do this? Would I be able to stick with it? How has that been for you? Has it been challenging to stick with the things we tell you to do, or has that been easier seeing the big changes you've seen?
And having the support that you have, you know,
having the support from you guys is fantastic. I also know that sometimes I can just call in and talk to admin, and get a little extra support, the chat. There's some people who are more chatty, there were people who were more chatty when I first got in than some of them now. So I'm trying to, maybe get people to be a little more chatty, because when you see other people's successes, it motivates you more too. So I'm trying to at least once a week put something positive in there to try and get, more people to be, share this, because your successes helps everybody else too. It helps me, and people, when I put something in there, people respond back to me that it helps motivate them also. So we've got to help motivate each other. That's part of the success of this program, is to motivate each other. And you guys are helping me understand that and learn that. So, I want to pass that on to everybody else too, because it is, something we've got to support each other in.
That's what you're doing tonight by just sharing your story. You're a big source of inspiration for us, for us as a team. You inspire us by seeing the big changes that you're making, and for those that are listening as well. And for those of you who are not our client, what Laurie's talking about is, with all of our clients, we've created this community, this online place where they can connect with each other and support each other on this journey. So if you weren't quite sure what Laurie was referencing when she says chat, that's what she's talking about. Many of our clients have become friends across the miles to really be there for each other and support each other. And so I'm so glad that you're contributing and doing that, Laurie. You talked a little bit about the tools. What's been your favorite tool you think you've learned that you use on a regular basis?
Tapping has been one of my favorites, and you've got to be open-minded when it comes to the tools. I was sharing with Dr. V, and I shared with my pulmonologist earlier this week, the breathing. When I first saw the first yoga breathing, let me back up a little. The one I was most excited about was the emotional safe place. It's like, yeah, I want this one. But unfortunately, my mind doesn't settle down enough to let me stay in there. I can do it when I'm watching Rosita's video on it, but I can't keep me in there. Now, years ago, I was diagnosed with ADD, and I just can't keep my mind in there. So that one doesn't work too well for me. Tapping works fantastic for me. Now, the yoga breathing, the first lesson, I actually think I think I said it out loud to myself when Stacy was doing it. I said, you got to be kidding me. As an asthmatic, a lot of us learned how to belly breathe on our own because we couldn't expand our lungs. And so the way to breathe was to belly breathe. Okay. That was the way to get oxygen, but we couldn't expand our lungs, and we still couldn't expand our lungs. And I'm like, we're not getting air in our lungs. She was saying that's how you get air. You're still getting air in your lungs. And I'm like, no, we're not, and it's like, I'm having this dialogue with her as she's doing this video. And I went through the second lesson also, and it was like, And so month 2, the next 2 lessons, I'm like, the 3rd lesson I'm watching, and it's like, can I just hit complete? It's like, no, I've got to do this. I've got to go through this whole program and do them. Okay. And it wasn't until she started adding movement into the lessons that all of a sudden there was a little change. And I didn't notice it right away, but I have to measure my peak flow every morning, to kind of check and see where my asthma is and how my breathing is doing. And I didn't know what was happening, but every once in a while, my peak flow would jump 40 or 50 points. I'm like, how is this happening? And finally, I figured out what was happening. And I can feel like right about, I got to lift up a little bit, right about in here in my lungs, there's like a little click inside of me. And when I'm doing the belly breathing, okay, every once in a while, there's a click in there. And I can then expand my lungs further. And that's when I get the extra 40 to 50 points in my peak flow meter. And my lungs will expand further. So I've been practicing the belly breathing and then to try and expand my lungs further. And as I'm doing this new protocol that Dr. V gave me with my nebulizer, I'm really working on the belly breathing in it and expanding my lungs. And I'm getting so much better at expanding my lungs. And I'm now, when I'm doing my peak flow readings in the morning, I'm much more consistently getting that extra 40 to 50 points. And instead of getting 340, 350 on my peak flow, I'm getting much more consistent, getting 400 readings on it. And I was telling my pulmonologist about it when I saw her at the beginning of this week, and she was so excited about it because she sends asthmatics who don't know how to belly breathe to either go find YouTube videos or to a yoga therapist to learn how to belly breathe, that don't know how to do it, because when you are an asthmatic or have COPD, you have to learn how to belly breathe.
Yeah,
Because
that's so fascinating because, when you told me that, I was just doing backflips the other day. We know that the breath work can help in so many areas. Like it really, one of the primary reasons that we have this as a part of our program is to teach people how to down regulate their nervous system, to teach them to get back control of the vehicle. It's like, it's almost like they're driving a Ferrari and don't know how to drive it. So they're crashing the car, right? They just don't, it's a powerful vehicle and they don't know how to drive it. And most of us don't know how to drive this vehicle. And breath is 100% of the time, when you do the breath work and you learn how to do it, you can down regulate your nervous system. You can pull yourself out of a panic attack. You can pull yourself out of anxiety. You can slow the mind down, and you can get better oxygen perfusion, which means you can increase your O2 levels inside of not just your lungs, in your entire body. You can hyperoxygenate your brain and your body, which your body needs that oxygen for healing. And so when you told me that, I was just so excited. But there's one more thing I think that we should share with everybody about the breathing. And that was that we put you on a nebulizer protocol recently. So for those of you who don't know what a nebulizer is, it's the little breathing machine that you can use if you have asthma. You might be very familiar with a nebulizer. We use them in holistic health. We used them a lot during COVID. It really helped to open up the lungs. There are certain things you can put in there that can help, that are really powerful antivirals, but also will help bring more oxygen into the lungs and open up the lungs. But we can use them for mold toxicity. When people have been inhaling toxic mold in their home, we can use it for a lot of things. And we shift the protocol just a little bit, depending on what we're working on. And so, Laurie, with you, I put you on a nebulizing protocol, and you started, actually, your lungs started to clear out because you started coughing up a lot of black stuff. Which I'm going to call it biofilm. Like you had gunk just stuck in there. And I'm wondering if some of that wasn't residue from the heavy metal toxins associated with smoking that you were exposed to when you were a child that was just been like stuck in your lungs, like plastered on there, giving you all these breathing problems, this diagnosis of asthma for all these years. Do you want to just really quick, because I know we've got so much that we want to cover, but
yeah, I mean, the first 4 days of that protocol, what was coming out of me was like dark brown and had no viscosity. And if you don't know what viscosity is, that means stretchy. It was chunks coming out of my lungs. And it was the treatment was actually painful. Nebulizer treatments are not painful, but it was actually painful because what I was coughing up was so hard and it hurt. After the first 4 days, what I was coughing up started to have viscosity to it. Because like when you have a really bad cold or something, you go to the doctor, they'll usually ask you, what color is your phlegm? Okay. And that's when it turned dark brown and yellow and it was stretchy. Okay. And it was like, okay, this is like what would normally be a bad cold. But
and now it's clear, right? Now
it turned clear. It turned clear like Saturday night is with the nebulizer treatment. I still end up by the end of the treatment, I'm crying really bad and I'm still coughing really bad during the treatment, but it finally turned clear.
Yeah. Well, good. And we can talk about that because at this point it doesn't have to be that harsh.
Yeah.
So we can talk about that. But I mean, this is amazing. And then, so you've been on the nebulizer treatment, you've been on the nebulizer protocol. I like to call it a protocol, not really a treatment. We've had you doing the nebulizer protocol for what, 4 weeks, 6 weeks?
3 weeks, 3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah. And you just had a visit with your pulmonologist, who is super excited because she's seeing this progress that you're having in this area of your breathing.
Yeah, she liked the products. I mean, when I first called, because my primary put me on the low dose prednisone because you hadn't responded to me yet. It's like, I knew I needed to do something because my O2 stats were going into the 80s, where you can lose brain cells and stuff like that. And it's like, I needed to do something. And I knew that. So it's like, okay, I'll do the low dose prednisone, the 5 days of the low dose prednisone. And then you got back to me about, trying the nebulizer protocol. And it was going to take, so many days for full script to get it to me anyways. And but
your doctor, skipping forward, your doctor, she was super excited about it, right? Mm-hmm. And then what else did she tell you? Didn't she tell you that she wanted to reach out to us also for an issue that she's having?
For a medical issue that she has herself. And the second protocol you just added to me is a product she's aware of and really likes. So the first one, the AC glutathione, she wasn't so much aware of, but the second product she really likes and was very happy you put me on that.
That was the colloidal silver, I believe. Yeah. Right. Amazing.
It's amazing what one delivery of one-on-one help can bring. Many times when we work with people, they might be in group settings with us and then decide, I need to do a one-on-one session.
Oh, that's what happened with you. You pulled me out of, and it was my very first group meeting of any of the live sessions. And you pulled me out as a panelist. And you absolutely amazed. Yeah, as a volunteer. And you pulled me out and you hit the nail on the head and absolutely amazed me. And I got off and I called the office and talked to Tara and I said, okay, I need a 6-pack with Rosita. And what was it? I think our second session, you helped me get rid of a trauma that had been with me for 50 years. And I mean, it's gone. It is absolutely gone. I mean, it was something that had been so heavy on me, and it's gone. It is off my shoulders, off my mind, and it's so liberating to have that release.
Yes.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
How many years did you ever try to work on this trauma previously? And if
Yes.
so, how many years had you tried to work on resolving that trauma?
The first few years of therapy, I never even told my therapist about the abuse. It wasn't until after I started therapy when I was 16. My trauma was getting so bad that I had a full-on conversion disorder that mimicked a stroke because I was screaming for help. And my parents would not even let me use their insurance to get help. So at 16, I had to pay for my own therapist.
So you started trying to get help when you were a teenager.
Yeah.
And
I had to
then
use my babysitting money to pay for my therapist.
Well, you're a super resilient, beautiful human. And I am just amazed at your tenacity for how many years that you have been trying to help yourself. And I'm really proud of you for circling back around and finally getting back to a place where you were ready to try again, and that you had hope that even though it didn't work in the past, that you had hope that it could work now. And with just a few sessions with Rosita, what you had been working on for over 50 years or around 50 years is now gone. I mean, that's a really big reason to celebrate, and I'm really proud of you.
It is. One of the things about resonance repatterning is that it is precision at pruning neural pathways. We know our brain is trying to protect us as we navigate through life. So it's got to refer to these past experiences to do that. And with very specific steps and skills, I use applied kinesiology or muscle checking to identify what is actually going to stop that. And we make a new memory imprint so that when your brain is trying to refer to, and how do I solve this problem? It doesn't go down that old painful path anymore. And that yields that feeling, Laurie, you're talking about, like, it's gone. It's no longer data that informs you. Your brain's got more to build on with the new impressions and statements and intentions that we infuse into the session. Brain snipping in a beautiful way. It's like, let those old stories go down the river.
Yes. That's a very, I would say that's a very particularly memorable moment or realization from this healing that you've been doing with us here at Modern Holistic Health. Are there any other particularly memorable, changes or realizations that you've had in these, 4 months of working with us so far?
One of the big things is for me, is finally being able to lose weight again. Before I started with you, I had lost a lot of weight and then plateaued. At one point, I was 400 pounds. And I had lost a lot of weight. And then I hit where I could not lose anymore again. No matter what I did, I could not lose anymore. So now being able to lose weight again for me is, a huge success for me in being able to lose weight. When I went gluten-free, within 10 days, some ladies at church said, "I can't believe how much weight you lost, especially in your waist." I mean, within 10 days of going gluten-free. That was just absolutely amazing. a funny story. I'm glad I have a privacy fence where I live, because I was out on my back porch and, some of my clothes with the amount that I've lost were getting quite loose on me. And the bigger of my two dogs, he jumped up on me and actually pulled my pants off of me. So I decided, I have two pair that were the exact same size and style. I said, okay, these are retired.
Laurie, I'm so proud of you, as well, as Dr. V has mentioned. I'm proud of you for being able to find these funny moments that you can share. The healing journey doesn't have to be all challenging and hard. We can have these little moments where we laugh and we find joy in the things that we're doing. And so thank you for sharing that today too, because I think that's beautiful. One of the things that we teach our clients to do is to focus on what they want. We remind them, let's not look at the past. Let's not focus on what we don't want. Let's focus on what we want. You're 4 months in, you've had some amazing change in 4 months. Where do you see yourself, 8 months from now, a year into this journey? What do you envision for yourself? What are the big changes we're going to see with Laurie in the coming, 8 to 10 months?
I want to see myself a lot smaller. I want to see the continued weight loss. And I don't have any immediate family here. Well, I don't have any immediate family left that's alive. So my closest cousin is 1,000 miles away. And I want to be able to, when I'm not, I want to be able to go visit them. I want to be able to travel and to go visit them. I'm the youngest cousin too. So, and the one I'm probably the closest to is going to be 79 this year. And she's up in the northern part of Wisconsin. So, and I'm in Arkansas. So I want to be able to go up to Wisconsin and spend some time with her, up at her home. She's got a home on a lake, and I've never been to her home, and the pictures are beautiful up there. So I want to be able to go up in the summertime and spend some time at her home and just really spend some quality time with my cousin. And go back to Michigan. That's where I grew up. And I have several cousins who are still in Michigan. I want to spend some time back up in Michigan. I still have some really good friends up in Michigan. And just, I want to, yes, I'm on a fixed income, so it's not going to be fancy traveling or anything, but I want to just go and enjoy the simple pleasures in life, and I'm learning to really do that. I have some cousins who live in New Hampshire, and go and see them, and and I have them in New Mexico too, just go on a road trip and spend some time with them and get to reconnected.
Live your
That's
life on
beautiful.
your terms.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. Well, thank you. Thank you so much for, thank you so much for sharing this, your story of transformation, and thank you for getting intimate with us and having a little chat. As if there is one last thing that you could share, or a piece of advice, something, now that you're on the journey and you're making progress, right? And I know that you've inspired a lot of people tonight. If you could leave them with a closing statement that could be profound in their ability to find their healing and transformation, what would you say?
That you have a process that really works, and to trust it. When I joined you, I would say that I initially was still most of the time feeling worthless. And I no longer do. Even a really close friend of mine said Monday night when we were at a gathering together, she was amazed that when I was speaking up, that she just sensed and felt that I was talking with confidence that she had never heard from me before. And I actually felt that in myself too. Actually, after my last session with Rosita, I was never allowed to speak out in my home or make noise. That was just something that girls weren't allowed to do. And so she worked on laughter and, getting me to speak out. And so all of a sudden, I started to force myself to look at myself in the mirror. And I really didn't do that before. Even when I was doing my hair, I really wouldn't look at myself. And I look at myself in the mirror every day now. And I say my affirmations to myself in the mirror now. And that is making such a big difference in how I feel about myself and how I look at the world. And it's like, this is a beautiful world, and there's still a lot of beauty in it. Yes, there are some awful things going on in this world right now, but there's a lot of beauty in it too. And everybody has beauty in them, and you deserve to have it. So treat yourself well. And if you're considering this program, do it. Find a way to do it. I mean, things are really tight right now. I found out today my bank account's in an overdraft. You know what? I don't care. I will go find some things in this house to sell to take care of it because I'm worth it. And you know what? These people will be there every step of the way with you. And they have been, a lifeline for me. And I feel better today than I have in decades. I mean, my stomach ulcers were first found, 7 of them, when I was 19 years old. And I had upper GIs done when I was younger than that. But the contrast that they used, this sweetening sick stuff that you drank, they never showed up on that. It was when I had an endoscopy done when I was 19 that they found 7 active ulcers. So I had ulcers, probably when I was 15, 16, but they weren't discovered. That's how long I've been suffering with stomach pain. I don't want anybody to have to go through what I've gone through. So treat yourself well. Don't suffer as long as I have. And if you have been or longer, take care of yourself.
You are a dear soul sister to us. Thank you so much for sharing. We love you so, so much. We're so proud of you. And, really the honor is ours to be facilitators in your healing. And to be able to guide you and show you what you have already within you so that you can heal, and then just teach you a little bit of, how to drive the car. That's what I like to say. How do you drive this high performance vehicle? We're just not taught how to do that. Right. And so thank you again for joining us, Laurie. And, I can't wait for us to do this again when you're a few more months in, so that we can continue with the story that you're creating. You are rewriting your story of your life. You're rewriting it. You're not even in the same book anymore. You've started a whole new book, not just a whole new chapter. You are rewriting your story, my love. You're rewriting it. And I'm so proud of you for doing that. You are an inspiration and a light for the entire world. And we love you. So thank you again. And for everyone who joined us, thank you for joining us for this episode of Inner Circle. As we conclude our conversation with Laurie today, it's clear that her journey with modern holistic health here with us, it's a testament to the profound transformations that really are possible when one is open and trusting and fully engaged in their healing process. Laurie's experiences, from addressing traumas that spanned decades to discovering newfound confidence and vitality, offers a beacon of hope and inspiration for all of us. And Her story truly is a vivid reminder that no matter where we start or what challenges we face, with the right guidance and the right support, monumental shifts in well-being, both mentally and physically, are within our reach. So thank you for joining us tonight. And we look forward to seeing you again for our next episodes of Inner Circle. We will be filling up the calendar with new titles, with new titles and new topics of discussion as we go along. So stay tuned for that. We also have some beautiful interviews. We have other people coming up who want to share their stories. If you want to share your story of transformation with us here at Modern Holistic Health, reach out to us at our office. You can reach us. If you're already working with us, you know how to reach us. Reach out and let our team know. And let's have a candid discussion. Come on up here and let's talk, and let's help be a guiding light for others in their healing journey. Thank you again, and we will see you soon.